I'll go ahead and call the hearing to order. I am Sabrina Standifer, Chairwoman of the Kansas Governmental Ethics Commission. The first thing we'll do is I'll allow opening statements.
We're here because on March 6, 2009, a complaint was filed against Speaker O'Neill by Representative Marty Crow. On April 15, 2009, the KGEC found probable cause to believe the respondent did intentionally violate KSA 46246A and KAR 1944.
Speaker O'Neill, do you care to make any statements at this time?
Thank you. Very briefly. I think my case is pretty well capsulized in the formal response that I filed. You've talked about unique circumstances. This is certainly a unique circumstance because in my particular situation, my spouse and I have been working together pretty closely for about 10 years under LCC Policy 50 and specifically an exemption under that policy. That don't dispute the fact that we've got a nepotism policy, but for reasons that I think will come out in the hearing, there was certainly some confusion on my part when essentially my opening statement is that I did not knowingly violate the nepotism statute.
The fact is that the Capitol during the legislative session, as some of you know, is like a small town, and there is a lot of gossip. I decided that something needed to be questioned about it, and the proper avenue to do that would be by filing a complaint.
As an attorney, you understand the concept of hearsay, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm understanding from the testimony, with all due respect, is that the impetus for filing the complaint is you heard people talking. And what I want to know is who it was specifically that you heard from and what did they tell you?
And there wasn't any specific person who told me any specific thing that...
It'd be fair to say you're not asking the commission to make any decisions based upon what you heard in the hallways.
No, I'm not.
While the Majority Leader's office may be operating one more staff person, it looks like the Speaker's office is operating with 3 less than the former Speaker was operating. Agreed?
Well, that appears to be true, but that supports my concern that there's been a shifting of staff. This is exactly why the exhibit is there. It shows a shifting of staff, and which goes along with the shifting of funding. It's duplicitous. It looks like one thing, but it's really another.
So would you agree that no portion of Mrs. O'Neill's transition salary came out of the Speaker's budget?
I don't think it came out of the Speaker's budget or out of the Majority Leader's budget. It came out of leadership offices, or out of the legislature's budget, which is what I said.
Questions for this witness?
Either of you stated that the transfer of money from the Speaker's budget to the Majority Leader's budget was identical or nearly identical to Mrs. O'Neill's salary. Can you show us on your where
That was, I think that was in the memos. I was told that the memos had been destroyed.
Who told you that any memos sent to Legislative Administrative Services had been destroyed?
My memory is that it was the former Speaker, but I'm not certain.
Mr. Russell said that he met with Representative O'Neill. Also attending that meeting were Representative Ray Merrick and Mrs. O'Neill. Mr. Russell said during that meeting, and I quote, Representative O'Neill passionately expressed his desire to have Mrs. O'Neill be part of the leadership team due to the knowledge and experience she possessed. Another document provided by Mr. Russell was a memo from Mary Torrance with the Office of Advisor of Statutes to Representative O'Neill. The memo cites a question from Representative O'Neill, and I quote, is it permissible for the Speaker's spouse to be employed in the Speaker's office or another leadership office?
Now, are you taking that position today with the Commission, that the mere act of asking for legal advice to make sure that you comply with the statute is in and of itself a violation of the statute?
My response would be that would be a decision for the Commission to make.
Are you taking the position that by me picking up the telephone and calling Carol Williams for advice was participating in an action relating to Cindy O'Neill's employment?
Speaker, again, I don't think it's my position to determine the law.
I want to change things, caucus staff, especially when we had people going to be, a lot of our members going to be in the docking building and people scattered everywhere. I thought it was a good idea to have a caucus staff.
Had there been a caucus staff before?
No, it's not a new, I mean, it might be a new idea for Kansas, but it's not a new idea around the country.
Wayne Hatgood received
Part of the salary for me and
and
part
part
for
of
the
the
speaker.
speaker. But that was perhaps the memo that Ms. Crowe referred to. How did Cindy O'Neill happen to be hired?
She, as I'd observed her, she had a good relationship with everybody in the Republican caucus and a lot of people on the Democratic side. She was a real bonus to be able to hire because of that relationship she had with me. And I needed somebody to deal with the confusion of having people in the docking building and everybody not being in the Capitol.
How was that position advertised?
Like, I have never advertised for a position. I was pro tem for 2 years. I've been majority leader for 3 years. I've never advertised as word of mouth,
Was there a job description for this?
unless my chief of staff has
I'll ask
been
him
going up.
to, I'll ask him.
And anybody that knows me, anybody can tell me who I'm gonna hire.
To whom does the caucus staff report?
My chief of staff is me.
But in terms of specifically the hiring of my spouse in that capacity, did I ever advocate to you, request that you hire her, provide money as an inducement to hire her for that position?
Not to my knowledge, it probably would have turned me the other way.
Did Mrs. O'Neill complete a job application form?
I don't know if anybody on my staff has completed a job application form. And I don't know if anybody in leadership staff in the whole legislature that makes out an application.
It was advertised by word of mouth. What does that mean? I mean, who would you have spoken with about the position?
When there's a position open, it goes around this town like wildfire.
But if Michael O'Neill had pressured you to hire his wife, what would your reaction have
What would my answer been?
been? What would
No
your-
way.
So did you approach her when you knew you were going to have the opening by chance? Did you approach her or did you approach anyone
I
specifically?
didn't. I don't.
There's no formal advertising. Has that ever been the case in your knowledge that these are formally advertised?
I have never known of any party, of any office to ever have any type of advertising for these. People come out of the woodwork to you to apply.
Was there anything different or special about this particular application or interview process with Cindy O'Neill?
On the green light, there was a green light to do what?
That meant to me that it was acceptable within the statute for me to employ Cindy O'Neill as our caucus liaison.
Cindy's qualifications stand out above the rest?
Her qualifications, yes, certainly stood out with her experience in the building of more than 20 years.
I advised Speaker O'Neill that I needed from them memorandums directing who they were going to hire, how much they were going to pay them. This bothered me because it took Mrs. O'Neill's salary out of his budget, even though he wasn't going to supervise her or hire her.
And I indicated to him that I thought there would be an issue if his wife's salary was coming out of his specific agency budget, but at the very least, it would cause an appearance of impropriety.
Would anyone care to make a motion? Mr. Solbach.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I certainly think that there was probable cause here, and certainly think there were lots of rumors going on. It's probably a case that needed to be brought, and it was well investigated and well tried. And one of the purposes of this commission is to air these things so the people of Kansas know whether we have a government that's above board or not. But I don't think that when everything is considered, that we really have clear and convincing evidence that Mr. O'Neill intended to violate this statute or did. And I would move that we find that there's not enough evidence to find a violation.
Second.
Donna, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, I will. Mrs. Varner?
Yes.
Mr. Emmert?
Aye.
Mr. Curbs?
Yes.
Mr. Reimer?
Pass.
Mr. Simpson?
No.
Mr. Solbach?
Yes.
Chairwoman Standiford?
Yes.
Was this a distraction? You are very glad to have this all over.
I'll get out of your way.
It is.
Thank you.
I can't say that it affected, my job day in and day out, but